love 2002 Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man film. It's my favorite of the original trilogy. I know a lot of people say Spider-Man 2. Yeah, Goblin. Out am I? Yeah, it's one of the most important superhero films in the entire genre. And the reason why I associate this movie with Thanksgiving is because there is a big pivotal scene in the movie that takes place during Thanksgiving. And that leads to the very, very awkward dinner scene where Norman, being a little goblin that he is, he wants some of that, that stuffing that Aunt May made, and she slaps the shit out of his hand. First of all, you don't do that, Aunt May, all right? This ain't your fucking house. And even then, you don't, physically attack someone. I know she's from a different generation. You don't do that before you say grace, but still, it's like, take it easy. And that's what set him off, too. Goblin's like, I'm gonna remember you. Yeah, I'll make you finish it in just a bit. Let's get to my list of the best Thanksgiving movies, my personal top 10 movies that I either associate with the month of November, the holiday that is Thanksgiving, or, movies that are actually Thanksgiving movies and are about Thanksgiving, right? And there's just several films that I often watch during this time of year, and we're actually going to be watching two of those movies for this particular evening, which I'm very excited about. So at number 10, the 10th best Thanksgiving movie to watch during this time of the year, in my opinion, it's a new one. It's a recent one. And it's actually kind of surprising. I'm surprising myself including this on this list, but I do like this movie, despite its flaws, despite its faults. And that is Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Now, Eli Roth is a filmmaker I'm not the biggest fan of, don't really care for Cabin Fever. Don't really care for his other horror films like, Hostel, Hostel 2, or Green Inferno. No thank you. Recent films like Borderlands, one of the worst movies this year. The one movie of his that I have not seen is his children's film, the movie that is the most unlike any of his other movies, and that is The House, the Clock, and its Walls. I have not seen that movie. I heard it's very good, so I have to check that out one day. But in terms of his movies that I have seen, I think his best one is Thanksgiving. And it definitely has some problems. You have some unlikable, the whole premise of the movie is you basically, after this horrific Black Friday murder massacre where a bunch of people end up getting horribly maimed and injured, and in some cases killed, you have this killer who is preying upon the people that were involved in that Black Friday massacre in this, in Plymouth, Massachusetts, basically. Killing them one by one in graphic, gory fashion. You do have some pretty spectacular, bloody, gory kills, as you expect of an Eli Roth film. And that, in terms of its practical effects, in terms of some of the kills in the movie, I think the movie does a great job. It definitely has a nice aesthetic. It very much feels like, this is perfect for Thanksgiving. And it's also based off of that Grindhouse trailer that was released back in the day for that Grindhouse double feature of Planet Terror and the Death Proof, the Quentin Tarantino movie. You had that. And this is like the full version of that Grindhouse trailer. And for the most part, I think the movie's pretty entertaining. The only thing that there's a couple things that bother me about it. One is, not that the acting's bad, but you just have so many characters in it that are obviously underwritten, right? They don't really get too much characterization. And a lot of them are just annoying and are meat to die. They're literally meat for the grinder. You can't really, it's kind of hard to attach them. Like the main female lead, I think, is good. You have the best black friend, he's good, right? Is he going to be black or fight Jet? I don't know. But I like him in the film too. But outside of that, a lot of these people are just there to die horrifically. And the mystery, kind of the big reveal, the twist in the movie, is kind of stupid. It's cool who ends up being the killer, because this particular person is often not associated with playing slasher villains. It was kind of cool to see them play that, but the reveal ain't nothing to write home about, in my opinion. But it's a fun film. It's a very easy watch, and so I figured, you know what? Let's go ahead and put that at number 10. I recently just rewatched this with Katria, my girlfriend, when we had Thanksgiving dinner. So that was an enjoyable time. So Thanksgiving is at number 10. But at number 9, chat, I have an animated Thanksgiving classic, and that is Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. I think many of us grew up watching this movie. I think a lot of us still watch this movie as adults, and I do too. It's a great film. I mean, one, it's very short. It's wonderfully paced. You have Peppermint Patty, who is always, a bit of a try-hard, always, shoving herself into everything. Because her dad is away for Thanksgiving, she feels like she can just insert herself into, Charlie Brown, Chuck's Thanksgiving, right? And she calls him up saying like, hey, Chuck, you're going to have me over Thanksgiving with all of our other friends, right, Chuck? He's like, that wasn't the plan. I was going to go to my fucking grandma's because she usually makes Thanksgiving for us. That's kind of our family tradition. She's like, nah, Chuck, you're going to do this. And so he gets bullied. Charlie Brown literally, and the thing is, Charlie Brown brings, I've talked about this before, Charlie Brown brings a lot of this on himself, okay? If he just fucking like had a goddamn backbone or put his foot down and said no, then a lot of this wouldn't happen, right? But he's a fucking pushover, right? And Pepper Patty knows that, and she took advantage of him. And so Charlie Brown, who's like a 10-year-old kid, he doesn't fucking know how to cook. And so him and, his sister and Snoopy and, Woodstock, they're like, Lionel, they're like, well, I guess we can make what we can, which they make a shit ton of toast. They make popcorn, right? They got some pretzels, they got some water, maybe some soda, some milk, whatever, jelly beans, and that's their Thanksgiving meal, right? That's the best they can do. And they invite all their friends over. They invite Peppermint Patty over, right? And one of the funniest running gags in this entire goddamn special is Franklin. This is like Franklin's introduction to, the Peanuts gang, right? He's like the first black character introduced. But because Charles Schultz, who was contacted about this, because I think from a black viewer, a black little kid, it's like, oh, why don't we have like black kids in? He's like, that's a good point. And he wanted to include Franklin, but then you had all these goddamn racist people that said, listen, you can have you can have this little black kid in there, but he's got to sit on the opposite side of the table from anybody else, okay? And he's got to do a weird handshake with Charlie Brown, which both of those things happen in the movie. Hilarious. Very, very funny. But then the whole thing wraps up with fucking Peppermint Patty being a dick to Chuck. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Chuck, toast, jelly beans, pretzels, popcorn? What the hell is this? Where's the fucking turkey, Chuck? Where's the mashed potatoes, the gravy, the pumpkin fucking pie? He's like, I'm a 10-year-old kid. Can you make any of those things? And she's like, fair point, right? And she has to be convinced by her little friend that he can't make all that shit. And and she apologizes to him, and they go and spend Thanksgiving with his grandmother. But it's a wonderful fucking special. It's absolutely hilarious. Yes, the secret handshake, and it's the secret black handshake. Right? That's what the movie says. I was like, and Charlie knows that handshake. Apparently there was a recent special. Edgy Berserker brought this up. There was a recent special on Apple, because they own the Peanut stuff now. And it's kind of like an origin story for Franklin who moves to the town, and his new friend is Charlie Brown. He's the only one who wants to be his friend, which I thought was really, the concept sounds really nice. And I want to see that special one day. But it's kind of cool to see Franklin make his first appearance here. I think they use him quite well. Franklin's special was quite good, nice. Oh, and Light Night Santa, thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you for subscribing too. So good to have you here again. But yeah, number 9 chat, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. It's funny, You got Franklin in it, constantly othering him in the film, but it's enjoyable. It's a good time. And Peppermint Patty, she's always a blast to have it. She gets her comeuppance in this one too. Very funny. All right, at number 8, another Thanksgiving classic, chat, actually takes place during Thanksgiving, and that's Scent of a Woman, the film that won Al Pacino his Oscar. Everyone's thinking like, oh, well, Al Pacino, he won for The Godfather, and The Godfather Part 2, and Dog Day Afternoon, right? Those are all those big Al Pacino movies. Right? It's like he got nominated. He never won. This was the film that won him his Oscar. And I think, the reason why the thing is, he gives a great performance in this movie where it follows Chris O'Donnell's character, who is this kind of poor kid going to this, boarding, private, prep school, right? He observes an act of vandalism, gets himself into hot water along with Philip Seymour Hoffman, a very young baby-faced Philip Seymour Hoffman's in this. And as his, time at the school is being judged, he might be kicked out, thrown out. He has to work with this blind veteran, played by Al Pacino, as Al Pacino's family goes off for Thanksgiving to spend with the in-laws. And, Al Pacino, he is just a goddamn firecracker in this movie. Hoo-ha and everything. He's very loud, very ostentatious, big personality, as opposed to Chris O'Donnell's character of Charlie. Chuck. Don't call him Chuck. He prefers Charles or Charlie. All right? And, he just has to wrangle him the whole time. And they kind of both help each other throughout this entire movie, where Al Pacino's character teaches Charlie to be more outgoing, to enjoy life, not to be kind of cloister yourself off, and everything. Speak your mind. Don't be afraid to do that. And Charlie's character teaches Al Pacino's character that despite what happened to him with his blindness, which is caused by, his own issues, his substance abuse problem while serving the military, that doesn't mean that his life is over and he still have so many things to love and experience. And they both help each other throughout the movie. It's a very good movie. It's a very enjoyable movie. And it's what won Al Pacino's Oscar. And there's a reason as to why. It's a nice, big, broad, charismatic performance, right? It's a fun film. Plus, you get to watch Al Pacino sniff women. He's just like, he loves sniffing all those broads in the movie. He even describes like a woman. There's nothing better than the smell of a woman. They have this scent. It just drives you crazy, Charlie. You got to give him a good old sniff, Charles. So that's wonderful. And don't you want to watch that kind of movie during Thanksgiving with your family, with your significant other, watching Al Pacino just go around and sniff women? That sounds like a good holiday film. Beautiful message, and Al Pacino sniffing women. Exactly. It has everything you would want in a film. We just watched the movie last night. It's a good film. I know I'm joking about it and everything like that, but it's a really, really enjoyable movie. Choco Man Pacino won Best Actor for his role over Denzel, Maxie, and RDJ and Chaplin, and Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. I mean, God. And that's the thing, though. It's like, I think I would have given it to any of those other actors than him. Like, I think he's very good. But the reason why they gave him this Oscar is because he kept losing all those other years where he probably should have gotten it. So, But this also marked the beginning, Deadpool is correct, the beginning of Al Pacino hoo-ha era. Yeah, where you started to notice, like, Al Pacino's voice. Like, if you look at this movie and you look at his performance in The Godfather, he's like a completely different fucking person. Where his voice does not sound like his voice now, where he was very soft-spoken. It was, a bit of a nasally voice, but it wasn't loud or anything. It was like, yeah. And I think maybe just years of alcohol and possible substance abuse just kind of changed his voice. And that's the way he sounds like in Scent of Woman. It works. It's fun. But, yeah, but it's still a fun movie. They gave Leo DiCaprio an Oscar for one of his worst. Oh, Revenant? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't like Revenant either, Late Night Santa. That movie peaks after the bear attacks him. After that, it's all downhill, in my opinion. I'm right there with you, 100%. Like, and again, like all the years that Leo was nominated, he had very stiff competition. They gave that to him. He was like, all right, fuck, we'll just give it to him for this one. I agree with you, 100%. Well, a big ass, as Pacino would say. Oh, yeah, Scent of a Woman at number 8 for me. Great Thanksgiving film. Just a great movie overall. A wonderful drama. Wonderful drama. And number 7. Now, this movie isn't exactly a thing. Doesn't take place on Thanksgiving, but it's a movie I associate with Thanksgiving. I think a lot of families watch this around Thanksgiving because it's a wonderful family film. And we actually watched it not too long ago. And it reignited my appreciation for it and my passion for it because I had not seen this film in over 20 years. I think the last time I watched it was 23 fucking years ago, right? Since I was 10. But at number 7, I have The Wizard of Oz, a seminal 1930s film, an adaptation, of course, of the original 1900 Wizard of Oz book. Of course, this movie is iconic for a variety of reasons, infamous for a variety of reasons. Not only is it just one of the quintessential fantasy films, kind of created the tropes and things we would see in a lot of fantasy movies and pop culture for decades to come, and still to this day. I mean, we're literally coming off of Wicked, right? Which takes much of its obviously it's an adaptation of the Wicked book, which in itself was inspired by the Wizard of Oz movie and its other adaptations, but also the original books of course. And Wicked was great, but the Wizard of Oz is the thing that kind of started all for I think a lot of people that were exposed to this property, and it really is. This movie has aged incredibly well. I mean, Judy Garland knocks out of the park as young Dorothy Gale. She gets that fucking Banner of a Song, Over the Rainbow, all that stuff, right? And then once we go from the Kansas of it all, and Margaret Hamilton, already you're scared of her. I understand now why the Wicked Witch is such an iconic and revered and terrifying villain, because immediately when introduced to Margaret Hamilton's human character, she just wants to kill fucking Dorothy Gale's little dog Toto, who's been adorable the entire movie. The first 10 minutes, she's great. And then she comes in, it's like, I'm gonna fucking kill that dog, I'm gonna put it down, I'm gonna drown in the river. It's like, whoa, take it easy, you crazy bitch. And so you automatically don't like her. And then after that, when we're finally transported to the Oz of it all, with some pretty cool effects at the time, which again, they're dated by today's standards, sure. But you can appreciate what they did for 1939. It's very impressive with the tornadoes and everything, and finally landing in Oz and stuff, crushing the Wicked Witch of the East. And then, like, when she opens the door, it goes from black and white to color, Technicolor, and it's gorgeous. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of matte paintings around and stuff, but it doesn't matter because what they're able to create has a really wonderful aesthetic. It's very vibrant, very colorful. Everything, like, really fucking pops, from the Munchkins, toadstool houses and things, the thatch roofs, to the the Yellow Brick Road, to the Emerald City itself. It's like, it has really good production design. And you just have these iconic characters and song and dance numbers with, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, of course. And then you have Margaret Hamilton's performance as the Wicked Witch of the West. And she is fucking at an 11 throughout the entire film. She's great. Apparently they cut a lot of her scenes out because she was so scared. And she is. She does some fucked up shit in that movie, especially she constantly torturing the Scarecrow, setting him on fire, ripping him apart. You have the flying monkeys, which are very loud, and you can see why. Like, watching the film, plus I was very high when I watched it again. But just watching, I went, no, I could see where this would be very traumatic for kids watching it. It gets away with some pretty crazy shit. But I loved it. I loved watching it again. It was a wonderful experience. And so, yeah, and I think a lot of families watch this movie around Thanksgiving in the month of November. And I mean, after Wicked, you're like, I want to go watch the original Wizard of Oz. And I encourage you to do so because it's super fun. And of course, the film is an infamous history. There's no doubt about that. With how horribly Judy Garland was treated on it, made to keep her weight down and on a diet of fucking cigarettes and cocaine and shit. And she was slapped by one of the directors. And then you had the original guy that played the Tin Man, how he had a horrible allergic reaction because the stuff they were using was poisonous, basically. They replaced him, and he was really bothered by that, justifiably so. Margaret Hamilton was set on fire, because of her makeup was made of copper powder or element level, and that's explosive, and it burned her skin and her hands. You have the asbestos poppy scene, right? That was industrial grade asbestos where they already knew asbestos was deadly. And so, you have the infamous stuff, which proved not to be true, with the Munchkin allegedly hanging himself. He didn't. It's a bird. It's a crane you see in the background. That's what it actually is, or an emu or something. But then you have, like, how the Munchkin actors, there was the allegations that they were, like, debaucherous, and they had all these sex orgies and shit, which didn't prove to be true, but I think it's kind of badass to think about it. But then what was true was, like, they were paid, like, $50 a week, whereas Toto was paid like $150 a week, where it's like they were making less than a fucking dog, $100 less. So the movie has a crazy history. It's fascinating, but it is a really entertaining and fun film, and one that I rewatching again when going, wow, this is pretty incredible what they were able to do. Well, the crazy shit. But moving on from the Wizard of Oz, at number 6, I have The Fantastic Mr. Fox, a Wes Anderson movie. And one of my favorite Wes Anderson films, it's this and the Grand Budapest Hotel, which are my favorites. But as you guys may or may not know, I'm a huge fan of stop motion. Grew up with a lot of stop motion stuff like, Wallace and Gromit, and obviously others more recent things like with even before that, like even older things like Wallace and Gromit, like, Nightmare Before Christmas, James the Giant Peach, like all that shit. Just love that look, that aesthetic. And later on, like Leica movies, obviously with like, Paranorman and Kubo and the Two Strings, great. But then you have Wes Anderson stop motion films, which he did another one after Mr. Fox, which is Isle of Dogs, but I also like, not as good as this one. But there's just something about this movie where it follows this Fox family, voiced by an all-star cast of people. Mr. Fox is voiced by George Clooney. And you have other people in there like Willem Dafoe. He voices a character. Bill Murray, of course. Wes Anderson, he voices a character. And you follow Mr. Fox. He's kind of this retired thief, basically, mercenary. And he's living with his family, but he wants to like improve their conditions. So he begins stealing from these farmers who have kind of like the market on chickens, on cider, and whatever, I forget what the other one is, but it's like another thing that there's like fruits or apples or some shit. And they start stealing, and this causes, the farmers to try to hunt down Mr. Fox and his family and the rest of the woodland critters, and they have to try to survive. And it's a really good story. It's very funny, great voice acting, but it's just the aesthetic of this movie. It takes place constantly during the fall, and the color palette is orange and yellow and red and brown. I mean, look, it's the poster. You look at the poster, and it just has this wholesome, comfy, cozy feel when you're watching. It just feels so good. It makes you want to eat some roasted chicken. One of those, I think it's pies. That's what it is, like these delicious stuffed pies that they have, like like apple-filled pies and a nice, tall, cool, crisp glass of apple cider, right, to wash it all down. Just gives you that, that wonderful feeling. I think this movie is just great. If you haven't watched it before, highly, highly recommend. Even if you're not like a Wes Anderson, even if you don't like Wes Anderson's live action films, which I can understand. There's some of his live action films that I don't like at all. But I love like Grand Budapest. I think that's the most kind of mainstream, where it's not up its own ass all the goddamn time. But his animated films are, I think, on another level. There's just something about them where it's just really wholesome and really fun. So recommend that. That's Mr. Fox. It's a cozy movie. Exactly. Yeah. 100%. And yeah, Grand Budapest might be my favorite of his. That's my number one. And this is like number 2 for me. This is number 2. So a great film. At number 6, chap. Number 6, fantastic Mr. Fox. I recommend it. And now we get to my top 5. My top 5 Thanksgiving movies, or movies that I associate with the holiday of Thanksgiving, or at the very least the month of November. And number 5, and you knew this one would happen, Chad. You knew this one would be. Spider-Man. Can Spider-Man come out and play? MJ and I are going to have a hell of a time. I love 2002 Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man film. It's my favorite of the original trilogy. I know a lot of people say Spider-Man 2. Yeah, Goblin. Out am I? I mean, yeah, it's one of the most important superhero films in the entire genre. It's like, I feel like I look at, you had 1978 Superman, 1989's Batman, of course. But in terms of the modern comic book film, Spider-Man plays a very important role. Like, Blade is the grandfather of the modern day superhero film, right? That's the one that kind of changed the game and went, oh shit, right? That was like after, the Batman and Robin of it all. It's like, oh no, we should keep adapting comic book movies. And then in the 2000s, you had 2 very important comic book films that really made it explode, which was Bryan Singer's X-Men, which released in 2000, and then 2002's Spider-Man, right? Which is Spider-Man is kind of like the face of Marvel for a lot of people, and for good reasons. So many great stories, a wonderful character, different in terms of a lot of superheroes, his contemporaries. He wasn't a teenage sidekick. He was a teenage kid, a 15-year-old, having to be a superhero, had to figure out all this shit on his own. He didn't have the infinite wealth. He often came from a poor family and struggled his entire life trying to maintain that balance between being a superhero and being a kid and trying to support himself and his aunt and whoever else. It's a great concept. And I feel like Raimi, despite some dated things in the movie and some goofy things, sure, we can look at the whole Raimi trilogy and pick those things out. But he really did nail the things that make Spider-Man Spider-Man. He nailed a number of scenes, defining scenes that inspired the Peter Parker to become this hero. With the death of Uncle Ben, how that is handled perfectly. It's still so incredible. Tobey Maguire's performance it's a different take on Peter. Like, he's very nerd. There's something wrong with him. Honestly, he's like super socially awkward, but it works in the film. And then, of course, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. He's like my favorite of the live action Spider-Man villains. He's just so amazing. Misery. That's what you've chosen. I offer you friendship and you spat in my face. Like stuff like that. But the reason why I associate this movie with Thanksgiving is because there is a big pivotal scene in the movie that takes place during Thanksgiving. And it's right after, funny enough, the scene I kind of referenced where misery, all that, where Spider-Man and the Green Goblin get into a fight in a burning building. Spider-Man escapes, and the Green Goblin is like, out am I, and all that shit. And no one says no to me. And it's him going to the Thanksgiving meal with his son, Peter, Aunt May, and Mary Jane. He's going to their apartment, basically. And just how it all fucking plays out is just crazy. It's just very, very weird. Like Willem Dafoe's Norman Osborn just lusting after Mary Jane, just kind of looking at her like, oh. Like all that, like instantly creepy as Aunt May's like, oh, getting all the food ready. But then you have Peter finally coming back home after his fight with Goblin. But he doesn't know they're there. And so he freaks out when they start coming up the stairs. And he's like on top of which you would see him, by the way. Like if you were walking up, it's like I'm looking at you guys right now, looking at my webcam. I can still see the ceiling. I'd still be able to see Spider-Man. But they don't look up. No one looks up in superhero films. And then you have that moment where like Peter's arm is bleeding because of the Goblin batarang thing, the pumpkin blade. It slices his arm. And the blood drops, and it's like the thickest blood you ever seen. It looks like fucking ketchup. It doesn't even look like real blood. It sets Norman off. He's like, and all that. And that leads to the very, very awkward dinner scene where Norman, being a little goblin that he is, he wants some of that, that stuffing that Aunt May made, and she slaps the shit out of his hand. First of all, you don't do that, Aunt May, all right? It's not your fucking house. And even then, you don't, physically attack someone. I know she's from a different generation. You don't do that before you say grace, but still. It's like, take it easy. And that's what set him off, too. Goblin's like, I'm gonna remember you. Yeah, I'll make you finish it in just a bit. But then, Norman, he notices that Peter's arm is bleeding. He fucking puts, 2 and 2 together. It's like, holy shit, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And then he just gives this awesome fucking speech. Look, it's the worst Thanksgiving ever, which is so funny. Where he's leaving, and Harry's just like, but I want you introduced to Mary Jane. And he's like, fuck Mary Jane. Who gives a shit? Yeah, she's pretty now. But, she'll be lusting after your trust fund. He's like, take it from a word from the wise who's been through this shit. Do what you want with her, and then kick her to the curb. Broom her fast. And I'm just like, dude. I love it. He's so good in that moment. It's just such a, it is an awkward Thanksgiving family dinner. So that's why I just kind of, and just the look of the movie, so much of it feels like it takes place in the fall, right? And I like that. It's during the Peter's school year, and then the movie, it ends around November, December, technically. So it's just a movie I've always associated. It's the one I like to watch around this time of the year, and I can't wait to watch it with you guys again too. Aunt May poking the bear of the sun. I know, and then she she got what, honestly, I don't know if I would have destroyed half her house and traumatized her, but she needed a little bit of a, hey, you don't do that. She's praying. And deliver us, and Goblin just comes in there like the Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah, finish it. From evil. Oh, it's so good. Oh, Christ. Mr. Bob Dabalina. Mr. Bob, welcome to stream. Willem Dafoe, why hasn't he ever played Joe? I know, right? He has the face for it. He has the voice for it. Good to see you, good sir. Good to see you. But Mr. Bob, hope you're doing very well. Hope you're having a very nice day. Pleasure. All right, chat. Number 5. All right, 5th one. But now we got to move on to number 4. Number 4, a movie I associate with the holiday of Thanksgiving, which actually has Thanksgiving as a plot point at one point. And that is Rocky. That is Rocky, Chad. The movie that made Sylvester Stallone's career one of the most, if not the most important sports movie ever made, one of the most important boxing movies ever made. Even though, yes, this is a sports movie, and you have the whole fight between Sylvester Stallone's, Rocky Balboa, and obviously the late, great Carl Weathers, who, man, passed away early this year, Chad. So sad. The late, great Carl Weathers, who plays Apollo Creed. You have that, but so much of this movie is just like a drama, like a slice of life drama of you just following this guy, this down, on his luck boxer who's just trying to maintain a livelihood. He's interested in this girl who has a variety of issues, social issues, anxiety issues and stuff. He has a friend who is like a severe alcoholic and a lot of substance abuse problems. And he's just trying to make his life better, trying to be something more, but also try to find love and try to find respect, to prove himself. It's a great story. It's a very American story. And even though he ends up losing the goddamn fight in the end, it doesn't matter because Rocky, that's the point of the film. He got respect for himself. He inspired other people around him, inspired him. He inspired himself, and he inspired other people. That's what's so great about that story. And you're a bum, Rocky, you're a bum. And Burgess Meredith is great as Mickey. As his trainer, who eventually, at first hates him, is like, yeah, fuck you. But then he's like, oh, since Rocky has this, opportunity to go up against the boxer that is Apollo Creed, he's like, I want to train you, kid. I know I called you a fucking bum, like 30 minutes ago, but I want to help you, right? It's a great film. Yeah, it's one of my favorite sports movies. And you have a major, isn't the scene? It's what I think it's on Thanksgiving. What happens is oh God, what's Adrian? She's actually making Thanksgiving dinner, and Polly kicks her out of the house so she can go on a date with Rocky, and they do all that where I think they go to the ice skate rink and stuff, and it's a really good moment. And then goes back to his apartment and he's like, I'm gonna kiss you. You're very pretty. I'm gonna kiss you on the face. If that's okay, I'm gonna kiss you, right? So it's a really sweet sequence. So yeah, Rocky is a film that I often like to watch during this time of the year. It is a Thanksgiving movie in my book. One of the best sports dramas of all time. Just one of the best dramas of all time. It's just so good. Love Rocky. And here we go, Chad. We get to the top 3. And a lot of these aren't going to surprise you at all. At number 3, I think for a lot of people, what is the quintessential Thanksgiving film. And so much of it takes place around Thanksgiving. And that is John Hughes' film, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, starring Steve Martin and Canada's greatest son. One of Canada's greatest sons, Chad. I think it's safe to say that. The late, great John Candy. This is one of the greatest 80s comedies of all time. Yeah, I think we can put this up there as one of the greatest comedies of all time. It's a perfect family film. You just follow these two people who come from very different lives. You have, tight, businessman Steve Martin trying to get home to the holiday spent with his family. And you have John Candy, who plays this traveling salesman who's very loud, very boisterous, but very friendly, overly friendly, right? And they're forced throughout most of the movie to spend time with each other as they're traveling back to Steve Martin's home, which I believe is Chicago, and going through different modes of transportation, literally planes, trains, automobiles, and several other things in between. And it's them, mostly Steve Martin, getting annoyed of John Candy, but, throughout the film, them getting to know each other, becoming closer, despite the crazy scenarios that they find themselves in. But it's just the look, the aesthetic of the movie. Like, it feels like, yep, we are on the precipice of, it's very much November in the Northeast, because it's fucking cold and there's snow everywhere. There's a chill in the air. It just has that look, like what they're wearing and everything. It just has that vibe. It also has a very emotional and powerful ending. I don't want to spoil it because Mr. Bob has not seen the film. Well, you know what? We're going to be doing a watch party for this movie in just a bit. We're just about to probably do that in the next 10 to 15 minutes, so stick around and hop on the Discord where we can watch it together. It has a beautiful ending that's very sad, where it involves Steve Martin confronting John Candy about something that he's talked about in the past throughout the whole movie. And it's John Candy I'll talk about it more as we watch the film tonight. Like, he just has a few lines, his response to Steve Martin, but it just hits you like a fucking gut punch. And apparently it's supposed to be a much longer speech too. And in a recent video I saw, I think it was like Steve Martin was like doing an interview series, or he was being interviewed, and you had these people coming to his home and asking about his career. And he has this huge wall of scripts, like original scripts from the movies that he's worked on. And one of the scripts that he has is original script from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, written by John Hughes. And he talked about this one speech that John Candy has in the movie, at the end of the movie, and going into details about that character's past and history and things, and why he is the way he is now. And like, you could see like Steve Martin was visibly like getting sad as he was talking about how he said working on that film with John Candy was an amazing experience. It's like one of his happiest memories, but he's saddened by it now because he passed away. And you can see him he even cut himself like I keep talking, I'm gonna start crying. And I thought it was a very beautiful moment. A very beautiful moment. It was a major plot point cut from the movie at the last minute. Ooh. I wonder if it was the stuff in the speech. Interesting. Now, tell me about it when we watch the movie Deadpool. I'm fascinated by that. But this movie, if you guys have not watched this, you need to watch this. If you got to watch a Thanksgiving movie, I think any of the three I'm about to bring up, and really any of the movies I brought up today I think would be perfect. But this is one I'm like, you got to do this one. So can't wait to watch it with you guys tonight. I'm like excited. And number 2, it's another John Hughes classic starring John Candy, and that is Uncle Buck. It has a very similar aesthetic to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It just feels like we're in the month of November, December, and the American Midwest in this case, northern Midwest. And where you follow this family, this wife, her mother is suddenly fallen ill, and her husband have to go check on the mother, but they can't leave their 3 kids, teenage daughter, 2 little kids. One of the kids played by a very young Macaulay Culkin, and so like they don't have any options, and so they have to call up her brother-in-law, Uncle Buck, played by John Candy, who is said to be a beast, a slob, a lazy bum. And maybe some of those things are true about him. But the thing about this film, much like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it has so much heart. Like, we all need an Uncle Buck in our life. Because he might have those flaws, but he will come through. And we see that in the movie. And he just becomes this wonderful paternal character to these kids in this film. He becomes what they need, even if they don't want it at first. They don't realize it at first. And we just see it in these moments. I don't want to spoil for you guys, but like how he interacts with Macaulay Culkin. They have excellent chemistry with each other. How he interacts with his little niece, the youngest of the kids. And we also see how he interacts with his oldest niece, who resists him throughout much of the movie. Which leads to some really great comedic sequences. And yeah, it's the not evil the guest, yes, which is so true. Or the guest is dark evil Uncle Buck, which is, yeah, you're right. This guy comes in and kind of fixed their lives. It just makes you feel more whole. And I really like that. Like, we all need an Uncle Buck in our lives, that like family member who will be there for us. Even if, there's flaws in anybody else, but there's just something about them where it's like they're just there to support you. And I just love it. He has so much love in this film. And I get emotional every time I watch this movie with him. Especially towards the end. I get a little watery-eyed. Just something about it. Yeah, and I think it's also just, coupled with the fact that we lost John Candy. And we just could have gotten so many other movies with him. But at least what we have is so great. And so, yeah, I think this is like my favorite performance of his. He's perfect in this movie. I love this film. Uncle Buck is good. If only if I could aspire to be Uncle Buck, I will. Holy shit. Everyone should aspire to be Uncle Buck. So, love this movie. But number one, what you thinking like, oh, Planes, Trains, or Uncle Buck would be number one on this list. Like, no. But this one is a film, a trilogy that I often associate with Thanksgiving and the month of November, because I like watching these movies around this time, even though I guess these movies technically came out during the month of December. But I think a lot of people watch it during this time of the year when it's cold and you need something cozy, right? And that is Peter Jackson's adaptations of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I have a poster for The Fellowship right there, because The Fellowship is my favorite movie. But I before watching these films, I had read The Hobbit, which I love. It's one of my favorite books of all time by J.R.R. Tolkien, of course. And then, you had the Lord of the Rings trilogy that followed afterwards. And I've read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and it's good. A little too, like, Tolkien gets a little too descriptive about certain things. I don't need to know about how a fucking tree looks, for 1.5 pages and stuff, right? But I thought Jackson, what he did, he did a great job in honoring the books. I mean, being very respectful of them. But also, I think, making some changes that I think, like, benefited them, that honestly made them better. And I don't think we need Tom Bombadil. He's kind of superfluous, the whole thing, right? And I was exposed to these movies at the right age. Like, the first one came out, 2001, I want to say? And it just opened up the whole world, like, gave me such a vivid, complete, beautiful, imaginative, fantastical vision of Tolkien's world. And like The Fellowship in particular, because I mean, I really enjoy, like, Two Towers and Return of the King are amazing movies, great movies. But I think The Fellowship like really has always stuck out in my mind because it's the most grounded of them. It's the one where it feels the most practical of them. There's a lot, just love the look, especially when we're in Hobbiton. And just how wholesome it is, and just the aesthetic, and all these fucking hobbits waddling around eating food and stuff, and smoking weed and boofing edibles. And it's like, this is just great. Gandalf getting high. It's like, just has it's such a great cozy feeling. And then hearing about Bilbo's adventures in the movie, and then having the quest, and go off, and it's huge and epic, and it has just this great sense of scale, and the shooting locations are gorgeous, and it's like, wow, this is a world filled with so much life. I just want to be here the entire time. It's so great. And I think that's why just the Lord of the Rings trilogy is one of the greatest trilogy, if not the greatest trilogy of all time. It's up there. It's in the conversation at the very least. If not number one, it's definitely in the top 3, top 5. But yeah, what he did, and what those actors, the writing, and what the actors brought to those characters, and the special effects and the practical effects, I mean, some of the CGI is obviously dated by today's standards. You're not getting away from that. But there's so much about these movies that have aged very well. And they have a lot of heart. Like, like Jackson, despite some of his changes that he makes, that thorough line is still there of what made those books so special, so influential, and so beloved. It's there. And, yeah, I've always loved these movies, and and especially the theatrical versions are great, but I think the extended versions are even better. I mean, you gotta, that's your goddamn weekend if you're gonna watch the extended version. Each one's like at least 4.5 hours long, but Yeah, Lord of the Rings trilogy. These are the movies. These three movies are the ones I often like to watch the most during Thanksgiving, during the month of November. It's just something about them. They're just very cozy films, and I have just so many warm memories of them. But I think any of these films are great for the month of November or for Thanksgiving, whether it be the Lord of the Rings, whether it be a John Hughes movie or a sports drama like, Rocky, or a stop motion animated film like Fantastic Mr. Fox, Spider-Man with the Green Goblin, or even Eli Roth's slasher Thanksgiving. You're going to find something to really enjoy with all these movies during the holidays. But what about you guys? What are some of your favorite Thanksgiving movies? Whether they actually, are set during Thanksgiving, or you just kind of associate them with the holiday or with the month of November. Let me know.
5 minutes later.
Jason, I love this trilogy. Watch the extended editions at least once a year, and despite me already watching it once this year, I'm planning on watching them again the next couple of weeks. But the new anime movie, because that's right, really. Maybe that'd be a good time to finally watch some of these movies when War of the Rohirrim comes out. I didn't think about that. That might be the time. That might be the time. Where's Freebirds? I've never seen Freebirds, so I can't say. Lord of the Rings is a great trilogy, number one for me. Can't think of any trilogy that's just as great. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. It's, Toy Story's up there. I think Toy Story make a good argument. Toy Story's up there. A couple other ones, too. Never seen Freebirds, though. I've always watched these around Christmas time. Now it's a bad choice. Oh, yeah, no, because the movies, I think, originally came out, around, late December or beginning of December. And you're right. I can see a lot of people associate Lord of the Rings movies with Christmas. Totally can. But for me, for whatever reason, I just associate them with Thanksgiving. I think it's all the food they eat. Addams Family Values. To be fair, I have not seen Addams Family Values in years. It's been so long, I've forgotten a lot of elements of it, so I didn't really include that one. But maybe rewatching, I could possibly include. That's not a bad one. That does take place during Thanksgiving. Yeah. Indiana Jones for you, Deadpool. Oh, in terms of a trilogy, sure. That's up there. Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade are both great. They're almost on equal footing. Here's Raiders and here's Last Crusade. They're so close. I can even see, some people saying Last Crusade's better. It's great. Temple of Doom is not as good as those movies. However, it's certainly better than fucking Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny. And there's still a lot that works about it. There's just a couple of things that kind of especially Kate Capshaw. But it's still a really good movie. I love fucking Shore. And that's Indy's son, goddammit. Ki-Hu Kwan. That's his son. Oh, there you go. Jason, I associate Lord of the Rings with Thanksgiving, Harry Potter, Christmas. Ooh, yeah. I can associate, Harry Potter with both of those, November and December. Definitely. That's a good one. Oh, the next Spider-Verse movie's on the level of the first two. They'll make a strong argument, too. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Right now, it's in great duology. But, yeah. Hold on to your potatoes, Mr. Herman. Hell yeah, short round. I will. I love that kid. Freebirds is cute. It's funny. Owen Wilson, Woody Harrelson are both funny in it. George Takei is the only. This is one thing that's not so good. Oh my. He just plays himself like he does in a lot of things. Yeah. As he often does. I have not seen that film, so I can't say. I have seen all these movies, and I recommend them all. But yeah, that's my list. So I hope you check some of these out. I know some of these are quite familiar to you guys, but then we had a couple people that hadn't seen these. I really recommend watching those John Candy movies. Uncle Buck and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. You'll feel good. You'll feel real good. Get nice and cozy. Make yourself a nice hot cup of tea or coffee or something, or some whiskey. Get some good food and just be nice and warm, toasty, roasty, and watch those two movies. You'll be good. You'll be real good. You'll feel great. That's what we're about to do. Glee. Steam got some great sales right now. Thinking about picking up any games, Chris? Just got Alien Isolation and DLC for $12. Oh, nice. What a sim. No, that's a great deal. I that wonderful game, and with the DLC for $12, well worth it. They brought back a lot of the original actors from the Alien film. Most of them, I think. With the exception of Ian Ho. I have to look. I've been so busy working on just content. Today I literally just before I started streaming, I had just finished my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure episode 9 edited reaction for YouTube, the one where it's JoJo and Dio squaring off for the last time, which is a very fun episode. I got that up there. And I was working on some other stuff earlier today. Plus we were Katria. I was helping, by the way. I was helping her cook. Helping. But she did the majority of it, which she did an incredible job. She made a wonderful spread of food. So we were doing that. I'll have to check out some sales and see what they have. I just it just hasn't been in my mind because I've just been so busy. But absolutely, especially because these sales are going to go from like today or probably all this week all the way into like next week, at least Monday. So I'll definitely be sure to check them out. But that's a great deal for Alien Isolation. Check out my streaming series, by the way. I have my Alien Isolation stream series up on my main channel, Christian Herman. Also, you got Alien Wake 2 and Robocop. It's nice, very good, very very good. Yeah, supervising, sure. Need the warm and toasty. It had been cold. So yeah, I know it's super cold. It's 38 degrees right now, chat. It is super chilly out right now. Watching play it made me want to go, oh, nice. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's ready to get it. It's such a fun game. Such a fun game. Loved it. Oh, my God. But with that, my friends, that technically brings an end to this Biddy-thon social.